Ladies and gentlemen of the internet, welcome. So let's talk about the recently announced news, and that is that Raphael Guerreiro is joining Bayern with a contract until 2026. I do apologize if you hear some background noise. My laptop has been messing up all week, so I'm trying to fix that this weekend sometime. But yeah, there is, according to Plettenberg, as well as Fabrizio Romano, Raphael Guerreiro will sign a contract until 2026. And I'll just take you sort of through like the timeline of things. So, Play Goal about 2 hours ago announced that Bayern held further talks with Raphael Guerreiro and his management in the past few days. A verbal agreement is close but not done yet. The Portuguese has signaled that he would like to join Bayern. He had a phone call with Tuchel, and that's going to are also interesting. And that was, as I said, 2 hours ago. And then 49 minutes ago, so pretty much an hour afterwards, Fabrizio Romano came out and said that Raphael Guerreiro to Bayern is a done deal. Verbal agreement has been reached on a 3-year contract until 2026. Medical and signature will take place next week. So that was the latest. And then obviously we get other people coming out as well. Santi J saying that Raphael Guerreiro is on the verge of joining FC Bayern on a free transfer. Blah, blah, blah. Thomas Tuchel was decisive in Guerreiro's choice, and then Plettigol said the same thing, that Raphael Guerreiro to Bayern is the agreement has been reached, and the contract will be until 2026. Now, in other news that has come out since then, in like the last 15 to 20-ish minutes, it's just basically that Konrad Laimer, the eternal signing, as I like to call him, because he was signed ages ago apparently, but hasn't done anything yet. Like, hasn't been announced or anything. Konrad Laimer will officially be announced as a new FC Bayern player in the next couple of days, possibly on Friday. Yeah, and he's seen internally as perhaps a future regular starter, which is very, very interesting. Because Konrad Laimer can play as a fullback as well as in midfield. He's basically, in a way, he's very similar to like Sabitzer, who could also play on like other fullback or in midfield. So I guess that's that. But let's talk about Raphael Guerreiro a little bit. So Raphael Guerreiro is able to play in two positions, ironically, as a fullback and as an 8. I think under Tuchel, if I remember correctly, he actually had his best season under Tuchel when he played in midfield. He sort of like had that, he sort of reproduced that this season as well. David, how you doing? Welcome. But yeah, he sort of like reproduced that this season as well, where he played in midfield for like the majority of like the second half of the season. And he's shown excellence. Yeah, he's shown excellence. So like, he is someone that can play in both midfield and as a fullback. Now, I do think he is brought primarily as a fullback. But concerning that, like under Tuchel, he predominantly played in midfield. I do think it's going to be very interesting to see, because obviously with João Cancelo leaving or having left, we need a fullback, and that seems to be the case, that like Rafael Guerreiro is the fullback that we now have. But whether that remains to be the case, we'll see, of course, because let's not forget that João Cancelo left, but also I know he didn't play. I was gonna say didn't play much, but didn't play at all. David Blunt also left, so we've lost two fullbacks and we've gained one on a free transfer. I do like myself a good free transfer, as you all know. And with Lima coming in as well soon, that's another excellent deal made. And I know a lot of people have mixed feelings on Lima. Some people really like him, some people don't. I'll be honest, I do like Lima. I just don't know how he'll fit in at Bayern. Like, I like him as a player. I think he would do excellent work. I think he would work excellently at Bayern. He's an upgrade to Goretzka. And I think he's the best presser in world football. But how much of that is needed at Bayern? He's not disciplined enough to play like as 6 or anything. And you really want him to like cause havoc up front. Not up front like as a striker, but up front just like press the living daylights out of everyone. So I don't know how well, he would work next to Kimmich. And obviously we're still looking at obviously bringing in Rice potentially. And I think there was a report today that we're looking at maybe bringing in De Jong as an alternative to Rice. But who out of those two will get, I'm also not sure, but we'll see. But I said we've gotten one transfer done well, two transfer if you include the Lima deal as well. So we've gotten Guerreiro and Lima right now, for retro cheap, free, salary. So you got to take into consideration that like we've not spent money yet, and we realistically we need two big signings. One is a midfielder, and one is a striker. That comes obviously to no surprise to anyone. The club is sort of like, I think it was Bill actually that mentioned that like we've got a budget of 150 million euros before any sales. So we don't know of any sales yet, but before any sales, we've got about a budget of 150 million euros. Which if you take into consideration, I think the midfielder and the striker will each cost roughly around anywhere between like 80 and 100 million. So let's say if you get two for like 75, okay, you might be able to stretch that to 150, but I don't think that's possible. But again, we'll see obviously who we sell, because Benjamin Pavard is leaving. That's the rumors. Lucas Hernandez is leaving. That's the rumors. The rumors are that we're aiming to get 30 million from Benjamin Pavard, which will add obviously to the transfer budget as well as the wage budget and the wage structure. Well, it will help tremendously, especially the wage structure will be helped tremendously by Lucas Hernandez leaving. And if PSG are truly interested, I think we could get like 40 million out of them. Now, question is, Lucas Hernandez has been injured for so long. Will we get that kind of money? I don't know. That's a question, because I think typically we could expect to get 40, maybe 50 million for Lucas Hernandez. Will we get that now with his injury history and literally just coming back from injury? I don't know. Now, just taking you through some rumors before I read some of your comments, ladies and gentlemen. Just let me go through the rumors a little bit before reading your comments and seeing what you all think about them. So there was a report that came out today as well. A lot happened today, which is kind of funny because it felt like over the last couple of days, it felt like the newspapers didn't have any sources anymore. And I know that typically they get their sources from the agents and not so much the club as well, but it's both, but typically it's mainly the agents. But according to reports, and that's just by ESPN FC, and they're not really credible. But who knows at the moment? With the way Bayern is currently run, who knows who is credible? Because we don't know who is pulling those shots. We don't know who is saying what. We don't know who is talking. So we don't actually know who is going. Who's going to the newspaper. So by that logic, I think everyone is fair game. So I would take every rumor, as ridiculous as they may sound, I would take them all at least somewhat serious, because the previous connections at the club at least are now gone. So I don't think we'll get like Pletty to be the first person to name the transfer rumors, again. But we'll see how that all pans out. But yeah, again, according to ESPN FC, Kolomani and Dusan Vlahovic are at the top of Bayern's striker list. While Kolomani has served as a number 9 for Frankfurt this season, he could be considered as a wing option by Tuchel, who, according to sources, would like to bring in both Vlahovic and Kolomani. So, again, that's according to ESPN, that we might actually try to go for both, which I think is I can't see. I'll be honest with you all, I just can't see. Like, that's the last thing I can see. We've got money, sure, but are we gonna buy 2 strikers when we've got players that can play as a striker? I feel like buying like Vlahovic and Moani. I know Moani can serve as the wing, blah blah blah. But the way I look at it is like this. Unless we sell a player, and by a player, I mean like one of the more bigger profile players in attack. And what I mean by that is your Leroy Sané, your Serge Gnabry, your Sadio Mane. If we sell one of those 3, I can see it. Then I can see us go for both. But I don't think we're going to sell any of those 3. Unless, Sadio Mane wants to prove himself. He wants to prove himself that like this year, it didn't go well, but like, he's still a top player. So he wants to prove himself, so he won't leave because of that. Serge Gnabry, because of how the end of the season went, and let's be honest, he's a German international. He's not going to leave that easily. He's also just gotten a new contract, and he's on massive wages right now. And Sané is not going to leave. The only way Sané would leave, honestly, the only way is if I don't know if she's his wife, but I'll just go with his partner to be safe because I don't know if obviously he's his wife or just his girlfriend. The only way is if his partner is adamant that she wants to return to Manchester, and let's say a Manchester club, because I don't think he'll go to United. He's got like a City tattoo and everything, so I don't think he'll go to United. City doesn't need him, so I don't know where he'll go. But like, let's say Manchester City desperately want him for some reason. That's the only way I could see him leave Bayern. So I don't think any of those three high-profile players are gonna leave, and that's what I don't see how Vlahovic and Muani make sense. I think it's one or the other. Which one is more likely? It's kind of funny. I thought for sure it would have been Muani. I was almost like I stopped reporting about the rumor because I was that sure that it was going to happen because there was a report a few months ago rather, that said that Uli Hoeneß, prefers Muani, and since then to me that topic was closed. Honestly, if I'm being completely honest, I thought, okay, Uli Hoeneß wants him. That's all I needed to read. That's happening now, so I stopped being interested in that. But in this past week, there's been so many strong links to Vlahovic, and I think those come mainly from Rummenigge, because Rummenigge is typically the one that likes to buy players from Serie A, because obviously he was a player that played in the Serie A. So I don't know how it's gonna go. I don't, again, with the change in management, higher ups and everything, everything can change, anything can happen. So to be completely honest, I don't know. Now, who would I want to see? That's a different question. I would like both, but for completely different reasons. They're both very, very young. They're both very, very talented, and quite frankly, they're both. I think I prefer Muani. I'll be honest. I think I would prefer Muani for one simple reason, and that is that he's familiar with the Bundesliga. That's a silly reason, all right, but I don't know how much Vlahovic will cost. And I think Vlahovic is a more of a risk than Muani. And I think they're both risky, if I'm being completely honest. They're not both players that I'm putting my stamp of approval on. But if I had to choose one, let's say they cost the same amount and I had to choose one, I would go for Muani. Now, I don't think they cost the same amount. I think Vlahovic is going to be a lot cheap. I think he's going to be 50 million. And I think Muani will be, 80 million. But we'll see how that all pans out. Now, back to Raphael Guerreiro for a little bit. You know what? No, actually, not back to Raphael Guerreiro. Let me see what some of you lot are writing before we go back to Raphael Guerreiro. I love that name. Guerreiro. Anyway, Wilhelm Arment says, Davis can play in the wing. Let's not forget, he can, but he won't. No manager has really played him on the wing consistently for a prolonged period of time. I would like to see him on the wing, if I'm being completely honest, because I feel he's been absolutely terrible as a fullback in the last 3 years. He's had one good season, and that was in 2020. So I would want to see him on the wing. That's my ideal hope, that he'll get a season as a right winger, so that he doesn't have to because I think I think he'd work better on the right wing than on the left wing. I think on the right wing, I mean, he played both really in the MLS from what I did see from him in the MLS, but he has a scoring touch. He's not a finisher. He's not clinical, but he is a good striker of the ball. Now, I forgot about the player completely. We did sign someone from the Australian League who I completely forgot the name of right now. But the rumor of that happened a month ago or 2 months ago, and that was one of the best finishes of a kid I've ever seen. But I forgot his name. But again, I don't know how much he'll actually play in the first team. But he's another option that will likely come in sooner rather than later. Good to hear. Good to hear. What about Coley? Is he coming? Colomani? As I just mentioned, so at the beginning of the transfer rumors, he was the big name, he was the favorite basically, and that's sort of cooled off a little bit. He's still the big favorite, I would say. If I had to put a percentage to Colomani versus Vlahovic versus others, I would say Colomani is at 50%. Actually, no, I'd say that Colomani is at 30%. Vlahovic is at 25%, just because of how strong the rumors have been this week alone. So I'd say you know what, let's go. I'll go with Kilmarnock 35%, Vlahovic 25%, and then others are can I really give others 40%? That seems a bit excessive, but I'm gonna go with that. So that's sort of how I'd rank it. I think the favorite is Kilmarnock, but I know Bayern enough to know that it's going to be a name that no one has heard of. So that's why others are likely as well, but I don't know who others is right now. Eric says Lima, right back, Guerrero, left back is good. Yeah, I think as I said, I don't think Lima has a place in midfield. As much as I actually like him in midfield, I don't necessarily see him having a place in midfield at Bayern. It just doesn't work with Kimmich. That's my issue. It just doesn't work with Kimmich. Like, it will be a better version of Goretzka and Kimmich. I think that's a good thing. Don't get me wrong, that's a good thing. Like, an upgrade is always important. Is Lima a better player than Goretzka overall? No. Does he work better alongside Kimmich? Yes. So, I think it would be an upgrade to our current season. I'll be honest, I just can't see it long term, because we're definitely, by all accounts, we're going for number 6 or someone that is a holding midfielder or someone that's a more defensively minded midfielder. Even holding midfielders don't really exist in that scope really anymore. You don't really get those registers that much anymore. But I do think there is a very realistic option that we'll see Lima as a right back rather than in midfield. Rene David, I hope Davis stays. Look, as I said, for me personally, I just want him to have one season on the wing. I don't want him to necessarily leave, but he needs to start showing performances again. That's for me my big issue. That I don't feel he's been good for far too long. And quite frankly, this is a results-based and performance-based sport. So I want to see him perform again. That's for me the big importance. Bad says Lyman can play right back, so he'll be good depth in the squad. Yeah. Now, actually, this goes back to a topic that I do want to discuss with other people as well, and that is whether Bayern should stop going for the utility man, the jack of all trades, and go for masters of one, basically. Because we've got a lot of players in our squad that are jack of all trades, but how many true masters have we got? That's sort of one point of the question of the equation. And then the other point really that I have is should Bayern stop going for these super young players? And what I mean by that is, you look at the names that have been mentioned. Kolomani is 24, Vlahovic I think 22, Rice I think 24, 25, De Jong 20. I don't know. I think 25, 26. So relatively young players. We don't really go for players that are 28, 29, in their prime, that are absolutely world class, but in their prime. And I think maybe the Sadio Mane deal, because we went for a more established pro, and that didn't work out. And he's on such high wages. Maybe that just means that we won't really attempt those anymore. But I think maybe I'm just speaking too soon, because that could have been the previous board rather than the current. I mean, even if you go back last season, De Ligt, we paid 80 million for him or whatever it was. And he's also 22. So we're going for these super young players, and that's all good. I do like myself young players that can develop and grow and perform and spend a decade here at Bayern. But should we perhaps aim for a couple more established players as well? That's sort of where the hurricane comes in. But we'll see how that all pans out. Wilhelm Amenta said, so rumors we could go for Vlahovic and Coleman, but the price of selling either Gnabry or Sane. I sort of touched on that just a few minutes ago, so I won't address that again. We need to sell. Bat21 says we need to sell Sane. He's a huge liability. What's scary is that some fans think he's actually a beneficial factor to attack, which isn't true. He is a wasteful winger. Well, I'll be honest with you, Bat21. I'll be honest. Let's be realistic, okay? I'm not sure how to phrase this. I'm just querying myself here, but let's be realistic. Out of all of our wingers, right? How many of them are productive? How many of them would you label as world class? How many of them would you say, you know what, they are top 5, top 10 in their position in the world? None. Right? Let's be honest. None of them. You wouldn't say that about Coman. You wouldn't say that about Gnabry. You wouldn't say that about Sane. And you definitely wouldn't say that about Mane, right? So, like, for me, it's what a case of I don't care who you sell. The only one that's like sort of got like a little tick next to the name, if you want to call it that, is Coleman, because he turns up in the biggest moments. So like he's the only one for me that got like a little tick next to his name. Like basically, I would sell any of them if I'm being completely honest. For the right amount, I would sell any of them. Because there's a lot of players that we can get in response, to replace them, so on and so forth. But like, I don't see Bayern selling any of them. I think we gave them too big of a contract, so I don't think we're going to get rid of any of them. That's my issue. Now, I don't care necessarily who we get rid of, but it's just something to take into consideration. But says, and selling Lucas Hernandez is a big loss. Don't get me wrong. He's injury prone, but if he can sort his injuries out, just like Thiago did for us, Lucas Hernandez is a world class defender. Look, as a defender, I do like him, but if I take into consideration his wages and his injury history, I don't think he's ever going to sort his injury record out. The thing with him is, look how he's still relatively young, right? And he's injury prone. Like, it isn't a case where, like, he's old, he's he's nearing 30s, and he's in a twilight or his prime of his career. And he's getting injury prone. No, he's relatively young and he's injury prone. That's the biggest worry. Because, like, if you're young and you're injury prone, that isn't going to get any better. It's only going to get worse. So for me, I would definitely sell him. Do I like him as a player? Absolutely. Do I think he's worth the salary that he's getting and the wages that we pay and the amount that we paid for him and everything? Like, in hindsight, I think it's one of our worst transfers ever. In hindsight, not in terms of ability, but more so just in terms of just the whole package. I know Sadio Mane is not obviously very high on that list too, but 80 million for Lucas Hernandez, that was just oof. that was just oof. Now about 21 continues saying, I'd rather take the young over Rice and Vlahovic is a must. He's a top striker who's stuck in below par. Team Colomani will be interesting. I'm more convinced with Vlahovic, but not 100% on Colomani. Vlahovic, the issue with Vlahovic for me is that, like, he had not a massive injury, but he had an injury. And you can say, yeah, he plays under a fraud in Serie A. Sure, you can say that. But Vlahovic is just, there's a difference in style between Serie A and the Bundesliga. And that's why, like, I feel like historically the club has always done well when it signed Bundesliga players, even if the players weren't as great, because they're just used to that, like, more Germanic style. So that's like a little deciding factor. And I think in terms of, like, how I would rate them, I pretty much rate them on par. Now the issue is that Vlahovic would be cheaper than Moani, but I think that Moani, just having experience at the Bundesliga, it's a minimal thing. Like, it only moves the needle by like 1 or 2%. But I feel like Moani, I feel like I just have like Moani edged by like a percentage over Vlahovic, if I'm being completely honest. I just think that's what's going to happen, and him being able to play potentially on the wings as well, I think that's an added bonus. That's just the way I see it. How many more years are we getting from Thomas Muller, as he already seems very slow? Next year will be his final. I'm pretty certain about that. Like, next season will be his final season. I think he wants to retire after the Euros in Germany, so I think that would be a perfect end to his career. That's just what I think. I hope we get Frankie de Jong and rice. I mean, you can buy rice from the shop, from the supermarket. Basmati rice is quite cheap. Just you can go do that and then make some fried rice. And so if you want rice, just go to the supermarket. It's pretty cheap. I got some. Do you think Bayern will go for a centre back? If we sell Lucas Hernandez and Pavard, absolutely. I do think we'll go for a centre back. Who do I think we'll get? I think we need a left-footed centre back. Because I think Stanisic can play as a right-footed centre back. So, in terms of a left-footed centre back, if I'm being completely honest, a few names that come to my mind are Ignacio. Has Guardiola signed with Chelsea, or is that just with the rumors just very strong? I don't think he's actually signed yet. So I'd say maybe look at Guardiola. I don't know. The issue with Guardiola is that he doesn't even really start for Leipzig. Like, right, Leipzig is such a rotation-heavy side. He doesn't even start for them. Maybe go for one of the Salzburg lads. Salzburg has some nice centre backs. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Cameron Carter-Vickers. I know he's at Celtic, and he might not necessarily be what we're looking for, but he's got experience, and he's a USA international. Played at the World Cup as well. Could be an option. It's tricky. It is really tricky because the left-footed centre backs are not everywhere. Not because of our young policy, and because I want us to next season. I want us to go for Diego Costa. Sorry, Diogo Costa. I keep saying Diego Costa. I keep calling him just Diego Costa, but it's Diogo Costa. Because I want us to go for Diogo Costa next season as the goalkeeper replacement for Neuer. Not this season, next season. I do want us to kind of go for, Gonzalo Ignacio. I think he's a very good player. And he plays, at one of the better leagues, one of the better secondary leagues. So maybe he could be the centre back that we go to replace Lucas Hernandez. Now, I don't know whether the club will do that. But I think if we look at our transfer policy, I think that's a option that could be on the table. I don't know. Coleman turning up. I'm assuming that's in reference to me saying that I think Coleman turns up during the important games. Yes, and I will not hear any slander. I am one of the biggest Coleman critics. I think he's actually terrible, if I'm being completely honest. He dribbles, and has no brain, no footballing brain at least. But whenever it matters, whenever it's a cup competition, he scores. Whenever it actually matters, he scores, and that's more than I can say about all the other players. Because Champions League final, he scored. DFB Pokal against Leipzig, he scored. And even in this last Bundesliga game where we needed a goal, well, we needed 2 goals, granted, to win the game, but even in this last Bundesliga game, he did score. So I consider that turning up more than our other wingers by far. Hurricane, look, the fraud wants to stay in England and break the record that Haaland was going to break in 2 years anyway. So let him stay in England and let's just bounce from him. He's not even that great. And I said that, and I'm not a Hurricane fan. Well, I'm not a Hurricane fan for Bayern specifically. I don't think he works at Bayern at all. I would much rather see, as funny as that sounds, I know people will go at me for that, bring in Giroud over Hurricane. I'm not even lying. I just want someone in the box. Just someone in the box. Just stay in the box. Don't move. Just stay in the box and be clinical. That's all I need from you. Robbery. They retired ages ago, bro. This is 2023, bro. They retired ages ago. What is your perfect transfer window for Bayern? All right, let me construct and craft and theorize my perfect transfer window right now, right here. So, let's think. Out. Who do I have out? So, I'm just gonna go with the report that we've got 150 million euros. Okay, that's just the report. So what I would do, I'm gonna be bold. Okay, and so I'll be a little bit adventurous and maybe a little bit stupid, but I'm gonna be just myself. I'm not gonna think too much about what works best for Bayern. I think what I would like to see. All right, there's a difference. Not what is best for Bayern, but what I would like to see. So there's a difference. Let me make that clear. All right, I'm making that very clear. So assuming we've got 150 million out, I'm getting rid of Lucas Hernandez. Let's say you can get 40 million. Benjamin Pavard, 30 million. And then these are all realistic transfers in the sense of I'm not getting rid of half the squad, which I would like to do, but I can't do that. So just the players that are rumored to leave, so on and so forth. So Lucas Hernandez, 40 million. Pavard, 30 million. I can't get rid of anyone in the attack because nobody's rumored to leave there. So Mazraoui, 30 million. Okay, so you've got 100 million already just made from sales. We're not even taking into consideration the wages. I think you could sell Summer for 15 million, maybe. Let's say 10 million. So we're 110. Who else is leaving? I think that's about it. Like, who else is rumored to be leaving? I'd loan out. I'd loan Tell out. I think Augsburg was the rumors. I'd actually like to see Tell. You know what? No, I would. He's injured right now, but I would contact the Rangers and see whether they would want to sign Tillman. I know they wanted to sign Tillman because Tillman has been absolutely fantastic for them. So I'd contact the Rangers and see whether they'd want to sign Tillman, and I would try and get 20 million for him. So that'd be 130. I'd loan Tell out, and also I would sell Sabitzer for 20. I think he's injured. That's why I'm going to 20, not 30 or anything. I think he's injured, so 20. I don't know. Actually, I forgot to count now who I've sold now in the last like 3-1. So, but let's say I got like 140 to 150 million of sales, roughly. All right. I might be forgetting 1 or 2 players, but like roughly 140 to 150. Now, this is without taking into consideration that players might decide to leave. Now, Sadio Mane might get an offer from Saudi Arabia. Who knows? But those are rumors that I can't predict right now. So let's just say 150 million is what we're getting for sales. All right. Now, who would I buy? I would spend. We've got Guerreiro. We've got Lima. Okay, cool. You get Colomwani, and you get him for. I mean, realistically, you get him for 80 million. So we've got 300 million to play with. Basically, we've got 300 million with our sales taken into consideration. The 150 million euros initially that we have, and then 150 million from the sales. All right. So I would get Colomwani for 80. I would get. I tried to get De Jong for 70. That's 150 of the budget gone. I would try it. I don't know whether it will work, but I would try it. So that's 150 million of the budget gone. All right, let's just say that. You need a centre back. I would try and get Ignacio. I don't think he's been sold. I don't think he has been sold. So I would go for Gonzalo Ignacio, and I think they would accept it with like 30 mil. Nah, he's too young for that. He's too young. He's 22. Nah, I think I'll try 30 million. I would try 30 million. So you've spent 180 million, and then I would like try and construct the future. That's my thing. I would try and like plan the future, and the way I would do that is, I'd sign not this season. Well, I'll do like the Van der Waart sort of like deal, where like you buy a player, but you let the player stay at their club for like a season or two. And the players I would do that with would be Raphael Guerreiro, Fenerbahce, who's like 17 years old. I'd let him I'd buy him this season, so he'd like Real Madrid or Barcelona doesn't snap him up, and then I'd let him stay there for like another 2 seasons to develop more. I think Cherki is basically very likely to go to PSG, so I won't even attempt that. Who else would be I'm trying to think of like prospects that you can do for like not this season necessarily, but for like the seasons ahead, if that makes sense. So Golair would be one. Vids, I don't think it's going to happen, if I'm being completely honest. Who else? That's a great question. Let me think. I mean, I would like to see Xavi Simons, but is he going to work at Bayern? Not necessarily, no. We've got enough players up there, but with Müller retiring in like a season or 2, maybe it'd be a good option, but then you've got Musiala and potentially Vid, so I don't think that's going to work necessarily. But Alagoula, I think, if you put down 30 million for him, 35, 40 million, I think you need to realistically put down, you can get him. So, Ignacio and Guerreiro, that's roughly, let's say 70 million, so that's 220. And then I would do the biggest deal, in my opinion, and that is to get in. I might be wrong with saying this, but I would get Diego Costa. I can't say his name. Diogo Costa. I would buy him this season, put down 70, 80 million, whatever it takes, right? I know that's insane for a goalkeeper, but unfortunately, that's just the market right now. And he's like 22, so you get 10 years of utility. And I think it was Eric that mentioned last time that he actually grew up in Germany, or that he speaks German, so he'd be perfect. I would buy him this season, but get him next season, because obviously Neuer's going to come back, and then I think this might be like Neuer's last season, and then let Costa develop for another season at Porto as their starting goalkeeper, and as well for Portugal as their starting goalkeeper, and then bring him in next season as not next season, sorry, next year as our starting goalkeeper. That's sort of what I would do. So you've got like 2 transfers planned that are happening, next season or the season after in Gulea and Costa. You're getting Inacio to replace Lucas Hernandez. If Inacio doesn't work, you spend that money on, say, Gvardiol. Yeah, go for Gvardiol, I guess. But he would cost more. And you just see how it all pans out. I think that's sort of how it would go. I wouldn't. For me, the thing is, I don't want us to buy more squad players. Like, I want us to actually like buy players that can make a difference. You saw what happened with with João Cancelo, where we got João Cancelo, and yes, it was a loan, but he makes a difference. Like, he legitimately makes a significant difference. He made a difference for us. Now, we didn't spend that money on him, and we got Guerreiro as a free transfer. Okay, that's fine. As I said, I like myself free transfers. There's plenty of good free transfers in the world of football. But I think the free transfers should supplement the squad. Your Limas, your Guerrero, so on and so forth. Previously your Rode, not Weiser, but your Rode, your Rudy, those kind of players that they're not expected to be starters, but they're expected to come in and do a decent job. Basically, that's what you expect them to be. But I think we should just buy quality now. I think the issue that we've had is that we've bought a lot of young players, and we've bought a lot of squad players, but we don't have enough mainstay players. And that's sort of like the issue that we have right now, where we don't have enough mainstay players. And I know that the issue, of course, is wingers. We really need 1 or 2 really world-class wingers, but we're not selling any wingers, so I can't just add without selling. You have to think about the squad size, and Goretzka is not leaving, so I can't just add even more in midfield. So that's sort of how I would go. But again, this is just off the cuff, and this is just me, making my list of who I want in, who I want out. If you give me time, I could probably come up with more names, if I'm being honest. Actually more names, and more quality names. I mean, look, if you want to get a forward or a striker or anyone that can score, you go to Rennes. like you go to Rennes. I'm just trying to Google Rennes and see who I would want from Rennes. Because they're players. They basically just all know how to score. They basically all know how to be. I mean, I'd get Doku. I would get Doku, but the guy is perpetually injured. The guy gets injured. He's basically, honestly, he's Robin 2.0. Always amazing when he plays, but always injured. And he's young. He's like 17 or so. But he's like one of those players that he's going to be world class if he stays healthy. He's your Ousmane Dembele, your Iron Robin, that kind of player. Beauregard, nah, not really. Calmuendo, I was a big fan of his early in the season, not so much now. Huh. I actually wouldn't take that many players off Rennes, really, now that I look at it. Interesting. I thought I would be a lot more interested in that, but no. There was a rumor early on in the season about us potentially being interested in Xhaka, but that rumor died down very, very quickly. So I don't think that. I think that would be. I don't think that would be a bad signing for Bayern, if I'm being completely honest. I think he's a free transfer. I'm pretty sure it's a free transfer. Actually, let me have a look. Granit Xhaka. Is he a free transfer? I think his contract expired. Basically, I would take him at Bayern. I'll say that much. I would take him at Bayern in a heartbeat. Contract expiry. in 2024. Okay, never mind. So his contract expires next season. I would getting Xhaka wouldn't be a bad like he'd be the opposite of what the club has been doing for the past months, which is going for young players. He's the established player, the 30-year-old, and he's gonna get a lot of yellow cards, so on and so forth. But one, he's got experience in the Bundesliga. Two, he would complement Kimmich so well. So well. But you can't get you just you, yeah. The rumor died down immediately. So I'm not even that like interested in Xhaka because the rumor died down. But if it was possible, I would go for it. If it was possible. Lima, Goretzka, Kimmich, Gravenberg, maybe even Rice. I'll be honest. I know the rumors has been so extremely strong with Rice, and I think the rumors are going to get only stronger because I think what the report was that the club is waiting until after the Europa League final or whatever it was. Or yeah, I think it's the Europa League final. So I think the rumors were that the club is waiting after that to go for it seriously. I just can't see it. I'll be honest. I just can't see a Rice. I think it's just too expensive. And how often do English players actually go to Bayern? How often? How often? Nah, it's not that often. But yeah, Guerreiro has joined Bayern. Lima will be announced sometime this week or next week, according to the rumors. In the next couple of days, possibly on Friday, according to Pletigo. Look, I like Guerreiro. As I said, I like Lima. I like Lima a lot. I feel like I'm one of the only people that really like Lima. As funny as that sounds, because I'm typically, I feel like I don't know. Typically, I feel like I'm one of the people that would be against signings like these free transfers, but I don't think I think our squad. I think what it boils down to me is just my perspective on the squad I think is a little different to a lot of other people. A lot of other people think that the squad is good enough. I think what the squad lacks really is different profiles. I think that's the issue, that we have too many players that are too similar. We've got too many players that can do the same thing, but they don't offer an alternative. And I think Lima is an alternative. So I want as many weapons as possible. I don't want all my weapons to be the same. I want as many weapons as possible, all of them in different shapes, different sizes, different skill sets. And that's sort of what I want, and that's sort of what I like to have at Bayern, just different profiles. Because look, Tuchel is very flexible when it comes to football, and his strategy and his tactics and his lineups, so on and so forth. But he doesn't really have an option at Bayern because the player profiles are so similar. Sure, you can say, oh, this player is a little bit better than, this player at X, Y, and Z. But if you just look at it, not with a close look at anything, just look at it generically, a lot of the players are very much the same. A lot of the players are very samey. We don't have you could say, okay, we've got dribblers in the team on the wings. Yeah. Sane, Coman, sure. But yes, they're different. But at the end of the day, they're actually quite the same. That if you don't look at it too closely, they're actually quite the same. Both of them, they can dribble past their man. They can dribble past one or two players. But what they struggle at is the final ball or the decision making. Both of them have that same issue. And both of them have the same strength. Then you go to Mane and Gnabry, and you can say, well, both of them are more finishers than anything really, and they're not really the players that will get past their man, but they're more so the players that will score the goal. But they're not world class at that either. They're not world class finishers either, and they sort of rely on pace to create an opportunity for themselves, not so much technique or skill or pure dribbling, just more so pace. And they have the same weakness, which is that they can't get past one or two players at once without without pace really. And like you have that like same theme running throughout like the whole squad. Gravenberg as well, Goretzka. I think the only three unique players that we have, like truly unique players that we have, are Neuer, Kimmich, and Müller. Kimmich because he's the best at what he does. Müller because you can't categorize him and he's so unique. And Neuer, not so much nowadays, but like 5-6 years ago, he really revolutionized the goalkeeping position. So these are players that have, again, it's what I go back to what I said earlier with like the whole jack of all trades, masters of none, instead of like a master of one. But that isn't a jack of all trades. These guys are just like the masters of their specific thing. They are the masters of what they are good at. They are at the top of the top of the top. They're not great at everything. And that's sort of what I would like to have more at Bayern. Just players that excel at one or two specific things, but they don't need to be, the best passers in the world. Lima, he's the best presser in world football, in my opinion, but he doesn't need to be the best passer. He doesn't need to have the best vision. Just be the best at one thing and give us an option in that one thing. That's sort of how I view it. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just sort of rambling. Let me just have one very quick look at the transfer rumors and see whether there's anything new. If not, then I'll end it and call it a day here. Yeah, I can't see anything new, so it's the end of this. Yeah, thank you everyone for watching, for listening, for giving your thoughts, your input, so on and so forth. And I will see all of you next time, everybody. Until then, have a nice day. Peace out, and as always,